We are living in a time where hate has become louder, where words are fueling division, and where fear and violence are entering our streets, schools, homes, and places of worship. Every day, people are being targeted because of their faith, race, culture, or simply because they are different. But we refuse to allow hate to define our future. This series is about more than hate crimes. It is about humanity, healing, understanding, and courageous conversations that bring people together instead of tearing them apart. Featuring faith leaders, community advocates, public officials, survivors, and voices from different backgrounds united in confronting hate and building hope. Because love must speak louder than hate, and our shared humanity must always rise above division. Join us for this powerful new series on the SB Life Institute podcast, Conversations on Hate, Healing, Unity, and Hope. Coming soon.
Having empathy is a very significant human trait, right? As a human being, there's much experience that I have not had in life. I've not taken drugs. I don't take alcohol. I have not had, other types of behaviors. I've not been incarcerated for any of my actions or behaviors. But I feel for them as a human being. I feel from a position of that I feel their pain. I understand their loss, right?
Yeah.
As a human being. Now, this is a trait which is very powerful to the human being itself. Now, what's significant here is a healthy identity, right? That's what this is connected to, about the self as well, because a healthy identity generally reduces hatred because it is rooted in confidence, humility, and purpose. Okay, people who know who they are do not feel threatened by those who are different. Now, I know who I am, so I don't feel threatened by them. So what do? I exude empathy, compassion, understanding, and caring for them. Now, as I explained at the start, that I myself, I'm a victim of hate crime itself. Now,
Can you share? Can you share?
I
A
will do
little
share.
bit? Yeah.
I will do share. So, for me, it was done by individuals who would call themselves EDL members. They were EDL members. There was there were people who came to to my city, my town, in England, and there was a mosque. There was a mosque being built, and they were protesters. Okay, so they had a rally here in my town, and coincidentally, I was walking towards a shop, and I was going to the shop, and there was 5 or 6 gentlemen who had gone past me, and the last individual in the line turns around and spits in my face. Now, I have nothing to do with him. He doesn't know me. I don't know him. Okay, and he spits in my face.
And that resentment, that act of hate, I'll say. How did that make you feel? That's one, I guess. And secondly, it also shows that the amount of biases that people have. They look at you differently. Maybe your beard and your color of the complexion of your skin, and and that resentment came, that anger, and they reacted in a negative way. So how did you feel when that happened? What did you do?
So in that moment, right, I stopped. I stood still. I looked at them and I go, why did you do that? Just like that. And because I was walking towards a particular store or a shop, I know there was a camera there on the top of on like a security camera. So I had walked towards that. He had done what he had done, right? And I just stood there because for me, it's a complete shock. I don't know him. He doesn't know me. And suddenly, right, I am on the receiving end of this behavior that's taking place.
Yeah.
Very negative behavior. Now, he's done that. So he comes up to me Okay, as I say this, and he goes, "Oh, he's one of those who talks," right? And he looks at me, and my beard was slightly longer then, right? And he comes and he hooks. There's a hook. Now it goes through my beard, right? As it goes through my beard, I'm completely shocked in that state. I'm in a complete shock state. What's going on? And him and his friends, they walk off, right? And they go to the rally. Okay. Now in that moment, I'm completely shocked. I'm thinking to myself, I've just been spat at. Someone has tried to punch me. If he had clicked, I would be on the floor, right? And I thought to myself, my logical mind came into place. So I said, I tell others to do this. You know what? I'm going to do this today myself. I phoned the police. I picked up the phone and I dialed the number and I spoke about hate crime. And I said, look, I have been a victim of a hate crime. Okay. This is the place. This is the time. This is what's happened. Very briefly, I told them. And the lady on the other side informed me. She goes, if you go back to your home, she took the address and etc. And she goes, as you get home, I will get someone there with you to come down to see you. Okay.
Yeah.
And wallahi, this is the truth. Wallahi, this is my experience. Other people have their own experience. This is my experience, right? As I walked, which was about 5-6 minutes away, I walked to my house. And as I entered, I get a knock on the door and there is an officer at my door. He comes in, he says, we have just been informed that you have been a victim of a hate crime. I go, yes, I have. He comes in, he sits down, he takes a statement from me. I say to him, I've been spat as well. So I have the DNA of the individual. And he goes out, gets a DNA pack. He gets that, takes the DNA from me and takes it back. And he said, we'll keep you informed for the next few days. And wallahi, this is the truth. Every day I was getting a phone call from the police. They were telling me, yes, we have found him. We know where he is. We know what's going on. They were giving me step by step. And finally, they also asked me, do you want to come to court to put a statement against him? I go, look, you have all the information that you need because he was someone already in the system. He had already been caught and picked up for different crime before, right?
Yeah.
Now, for
so
me,
he was not a total stranger. He was a known aggressive person or a criminal, so to speak. Yeah.
Or a criminal to the system, not to me, to the system.
Yeah, to the system.
Now, that's right. And for me, ya Sheikh, it was interesting because in that moment, there's a lot of emotions that went through me. Okay, I went through anger, frustration, fear, all of these different type of feeling. But because I thought about that, I ask others to do this. Let's do this. So picking up the phone, speaking to the police, and thank God my experience was positive, not negative.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, the reaction of the police force was on point, and that's what you want within a society, right? When you experience this, they don't cipher out calls based on who you are, but rather based on the urgency of it and the need of it. And they must be complimented for doing that, right? Like before you reach your home, the cops were there. They were very empathetic. I guess they were very kind. They listened to you, and they were on point, right? But
100%. And yeah,
what do you think, right, was the reason for your attack? What was the mindset? Like thinking, like if you were to think about this person, his body language, what led up to that point, looking at him, what do you think happened there with him when he sees you? What it triggered?
I believe, there's something called mob psychology, right? The psychology of the group. Someone called Edward Bernays is very interesting in this area. He was the nephew of Sigmund Freud. He's also known as the father of public relations in America. And he did a lot of work around, group psychology.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do things not because I personally want to do it. We do it because we are encouraged by a group of people. Now, There were 5 other lads there. Okay, they come to a rally. They probably have drank before. They were drinking, right? They were riled up, okay, to protest against a group of people that they felt should not be in England. Suddenly, I become the focal point, right? I just go, as I'm walking, I'm doing my thing, and I become the focal point of someone's attack, hateful attack, not because he has something personal against me, no, but mainly because there is a mob psychology. There's a psychology of the group. They probably were talking and discussing, are we going to do this and we're going to do that? And what are you going to do? What can you do? You know, we rile each other up. And what happens? One thing leads to another. Now, for me, as a person who works with these individuals, maybe it's much more easier to come to that understanding, right? Because for others who have, for example, our mothers, our daughters, or brothers who have brothers and elders who don't have that understanding and background, straight away it becomes personal. It hurts them immensely, right? They cannot come to a place, they're in a victim place straight away. Why me? What have I done? Why was I attacked? Is it my faith? Is it my color? Is it my ethnicity? What was it? It hurts. Now, I was in a slightly different position, but I wanted to share that because I also want to share with our viewers that it's good to take the steps of what are provided to us through the mechanisms of our societies. No doubt there are aspects of our own identities and belongings, and because of that we are comfortable and engaging with the world empathetically. But it's also significant that we use the system that has been provided to us, and alhamdulillah, when the system works, it works really well.
So that's it's key that you're mentioning this, right? And we are having a very important discourse, and how do you, right, see yourself in the middle of a society that you're seeing all of this hate? How do you handle this?
Sheikh, I think from a personal position, as a father,
Yeah,
as
that's
a
what
husband,
I'm asking. Like,
yeah, as a father, as a husband, as the protector of my family, as a son to his parents, a brother to his sisters and his brothers, and of course a significant individual within society as a neighbor to all of the people that are around me,
yeah,
is something that worries me. Because, yeah, Sheikh, as a human being, as a man, I always want to be a protector, a carer. Okay, I don't want my loved ones to be hurt. I don't want my loved ones to be the target of someone else's hate. And many a time that hate comes from immense ignorance, or it comes from that individual's personal trauma, or false, fake information. Okay, fake news, as they say. And that has been peddled so much. It has been spoken about so much that a story has been created that it's my mother, it's my wife, it's my daughter, it's my sister, it's my brother, it's my father who is on the receiving end of this. That generally, on a personal level, makes me worry immensely, right? And I think as a person who lives in a multicultural, multi-faith society, just like you, Sheikh, I engage with many aspects of my society, many different functions of my society, and many different people of my society to create stability, to create dialogue, right? But it originates from this sense of safety, creating safe environments, creating spaces where people can talk, people can discuss their pains. Because the way I see it, that even an extremist, I said this once, and I was speaking at a very significant, forum, and we were talking about dehumanization as we started with dehumanization.
Yes.
And I said that we, as mainstream society, do the same to people who have extreme views. We dehumanize them. We call them monsters, right? We call them murderers and killers and whatever. We use labels. What does it do? It distances us from them. Okay. The issue is, in my experience, Sheikh, the way we create change is by engaging with these people, right? By talking to these people, by having spaces and places where they can share their thoughts and reflection. Just recently, when we had, it was in Liverpool, ya Sheikh, and shout out to Sheikh Kelwick, may Allah protect him and increase him, Muhammad Kelwick, a well-known, media personality, as well as an imam, mashallah. He's the imam of Quillian Masjid in Liverpool, and of course there was major tensions last year, and a number of people turned up at the masjid, outside of the masjid, protesting. Okay. Now, of course, he worked with the police. The police came. The police said, you can't come out. You can't engage with these people. These people are angry. They're frustrated for whatever reasons. Okay. Now, of course, many of the slogans were based upon immigration. Why are these people, these rapists and murderers, inside our hotels? Why are they being paid? All these slogans were being thrown out. Now, the Sheikh and his team, what they had done is that they cooked burgers for everybody, and they cooked them in the masjid, in the mosque, in the masjid kitchen, and they waited for the police to give them, a go ahead, so they can go and engage with these people. So what they done is once the police said now it's safe, they went out with their food and their drinks, and they went and shared that with them, with the group of people who came to protest outside the masjid. First hand, people may say, this is madness. Why would you do that? You don't know how they're going to react. But what the Sheikh said, which I thought was really interesting, he said, we weren't there to say anything to them. We were just there to care for them. Because they had come all this way. They're definitely hungry. They're definitely thirsty, right? And our job as a mosque, as a masjid, is to be in service. Yeah. That's it. That's our job. So we did exactly that.
That's missing today. That Sheikh is a gem, because we don't see that today in today's society.
Sheikh, let me share something with you. Let me share something. Wallahi, that, when he did this, Sheikh, it broke me down, because it's exactly what you just said. We don't have this anymore. We don't have people. What do? They've come to our door. We become worse than them. We don't show mercy. We don't show love. We don't show compassion. We don't show caring. And when the Sheikh said this, wallahi, I was bawling. I was just crying. I was thinking to myself, what is he doing? It's unbelievable. This is madness.
And this is taken from the life of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is what the Prophet taught us. There's numerous examples, but we tend to forget. There are numerous examples, like the attempts of taking his life. When he entered into Mecca, he says, "Go, you're all free. Idhabu fa antum tulaqa." The Prophet ﷺ was so compassionate to that extent, and loving and forgiving, and always want to engage. And this is where the Sheikh of Liverpool, this particular Sheikh, have learned that from, right? Because the role model is our beloved Prophet, the Prophet of humanity. And if they're targeting a community that looks up to this individual, it is only right for us to react like him and ask ourselves, if the Prophet was in this situation, what would he do? And how he would have responded, right? And, but yet, we read things in our scripture, in the ahadith, prophetic traditions. We learn it in the seerah. But day to day, when we're confronted with it, right? How do we respond? We respond contrary to that which we know, to that which we were taught. Because, I guess religion is not about practicing what we learn. It becomes now of what we know and information, so to speak, right? And it's sad. And
it is
what
sad.
What was the response?
Oh, the response was unbelievable, because it opened up conversation. It opened up dialogue. They ate together. They spoke with each other. right? But someone had to be daring enough to break through that hate. Someone said, but why is it that you hate us? Right? Why is it that you've come to this mosque and you are protesting? Why? What have we done? And he was recognized for this, for this act that he had done, and his team, his full team. And of course, on BBC and other channels, they were invited for doing this amazing act where literally walking into the battlefield. That's exactly what it was. But he said, he goes, I don't see them as my enemies. They're not my enemies. They are my fellow brothers and sisters in this nation of Britain.
And that is the way
They are
I
my
can
brothers and
recall.
sisters.
Yeah, I can recall. I think I've shared this with one of my guests, that my first unit of clinical pastoral education, um, close to a decade ago, approximately, first unit, and uh, there was this sense of fear of what my peers will say, or not working, but studying in a hospital setting, and have priests and pastors and rabbis and other religious groups, and what they will say about myself being a Muslim, right? And
That's right.
that was a great exposure for me to be in that setting. And I can recall um, that, through conversation, a lot of those barriers were removed. And I knocked at the door of a particular patient today and say, my name is Imam. I didn't say Imam, I'm Chaplain Safraz, and I'm here. Do you have a minute to speak? And then he says, what denomination you're from? He asked that question,
Yeah.
right? What denomination you're from? And I said, I'm a multi-faith chaplain, but I'm a Muslim by faith. And he says, are you here to basically kill me? That that was his statement. And my exposure to CP, my first clinical pastoral education unit, you know, uh, I think is what helped me to look beyond my emotions and to engage him. But beside that was the teachings of our beloved Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So I looked at him trying to suppress that fear and anger that was inside of me. And I looked at him and I said, are you scared of me? And he looked at me and he chuckled. And I think, that prompted um, conversation to happen. And I did not shy away to make a second visit to check up on him, how he's doing. And I think that initial conversation was a breaking point for us to open up a conversation that became very fruitful. I think I was able to remove a lot of barriers that he have erected, misunderstanding, and that type of
Dispelling of
thing.
them. Yeah.
So coming back to what you're saying, a conversation is quite important. And if we are stuck in our own ways and do not want to engage and say, oh, his thought or views are not aligned to mine, I think that will be very not be very fruitful and helpful. Sheikh, it's 58 minutes now we're talking. So I think we have to wrap up. I'm definitely invite you more in the future for us to speak in the future on the upcoming series I'm going to do on addiction. But we will talk about that later on. But I want to ask you as we conclude today, what would be your closing remarks, and what message do you want to leave with our viewers?
Oh, it's always difficult talking about, hate and why people hate and what is the origin of hatred. Because all human beings have different experiences, right? And I always say, as a coach, as a person who works with people who have, or as a chaplain, people who have gone through trauma, who've gone through pain, who've gone through isolation and loneliness, right? That Find a way to help yourself. Sense of healing. So I would say this, okay? Hatred often feels like strength, but in reality, it is a prison that first imprisons the person carrying it. Ask yourself, what fear, what pain, what disappointment or wound is this hatred protecting? Healing begins when we have the courage to confront ourselves rather than condemn others. My beloveds, it's always an honor for me to talk to the Shaykh. He always gives me the opportunity to share my thoughts at the end. So I'm going to say this: no matter who you are or what has happened in your life, you are capable of change. Choose truth over prejudice, understanding over assumption, and mercy over resentment. Every person you meet is a human being, honored by Allah, and every heart has the potential to change. My beloveds, I love you, and I know the Sheikh loves you. And if there is any emotion or key attribute of a human being that could penetrate to any hate, is none other than love itself. So my beloveds, open your heart to love and remove the hate from yourself. It will make us stronger, and it make us one as a nation and as a human race, inshallah.
Thank you so much, my good friend Imran, for uh, gracing us on this final episode of our journey discussing hate crime. And I want to say to my viewers that it has been approximately 10 weeks that we have been presenting to you various guests and discussing about hate crime. Because why? And I say this is quite dear to me. As a religious and community leader, I see the negative impact that hate is having within the homes, within society, and the world at large. And the key word of today's episode is to dehumanize. When you start to dehumanize others, you rationalize within your mindset and bring that comfort zone within your mindset to treat people differently in an inhumane manner. And therefore, as we continue our lives, the question would be, what society do you want to leave? What community do you want to leave? What environment do you want to leave for your kids 5 years from now or 10 years from now? Let's look deep inside of us and say to ourselves, the same way I would like others to treat us, myself and my family, for example, the same way I should treat others. The same way you would like people to treat you, take that initiative to treat others the same way. I think our community would be a better community. As we conclude, we ask of religious leaders, right, to be more engaged with people within their community and beyond their community. And this has been my narrative. Narrative being that religious leaders ought to know that their work extend beyond the walls of the mosque, the churches, the mandir, the synagogue, and the temples. That the work is out there, engaging with the people, communicating with them, so you will know to some extent their needs, what's troubling them, and you can by your presence or empathetic listening prevent many of these crimes, maybe by simply educating or simply understanding. Let's be a voice of truth. Let's be a voice of peace. And despite what religious background you're from, let's tap into the resources of our spiritual texts and religious texts and grasp from it and share with the people in the world that is within your faith and outside of your faith. For the politicians, I'll say that your work should be beyond the time of election, that you should understand that when you occupy a chair, it is not only advocating for your people alone that looks like you, but it's a community that you're governing. It's a community that you're taking care of. Understand their struggles, understand their feelings, understand everything about them, or try to understand everything about them. In that way, it will make your work more easier. As for teachers, teach, teach love, teach compassion, teach kindness. As for parents, I'll say, start this teaching from your home. Be mindful of what you do and what you say, because whatever you do, your kids observe that. They observe you, and you become the first teacher of the house. Be mindful of what you say, and teach your kid to love and not to hate. Thank you all so much, and I'm quite delighted to have taken you all through this journey, the journey where we advocate for peace and love. I'll end with the statement of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, with the peace and blessings of God be with him, the Prophet of humanity. And this is something all of you can resonate with. When he migrated to a new society, new community, new area, so to speak, right? Al-Madinah al-Munawwara, after he was expelled somehow, or treated in a very inhumane way in Makkah al-Mukarramah, and he migrated, so to speak, and he went to Medina. He said to the people, Ifshu salam. He said, spread peace. Remember that. The Prophet says, tahadu tahabu, give gifts and also love. He did not teach us hate. Let's be people who are advocates for peace and love. Peace and love be with you all. My name is Safraz Bacchus, and it's an honor to have taken this path with you. Kindly stay tuned for more series and very important and vital discourses with our upcoming guests as we discuss in our upcoming episodes on addiction and matters relating to addiction. Kindly subscribe on our YouTube channel. I'm on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Please listen and also like and share. Last thing I will say, that this episode and all of our episodes is aired in Guyana on channel 69, which is aired throughout the country on Fridays at 7. So I will appreciate if you can share that word as well. Peace and love be with all of you. Thank you.